Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Meet the Candidates Night for East Dundee Trustees to be elected in the April 4th consolidated election. The forum is hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Elgin area. My name is Carol Brome and I'll be the moderator tonight. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that works to empower voters and encourage informed participation in our democracy. One of the ways we do that is to hold candidate forums or events like this to provide voters an opportunity to hear the candidates running for election. The events sponsored by the League give candidates for local offices a chance to present information about themselves and their candidacy, background and skills, reasons for running for office, what they hope to accomplish if elected, and positions on various issues relevant to the office. All candidates in contested races were invited to participate. Each one was given the opportunity to fill out a candidate questionnaire on our website, and their written responses can be found by clicking on their name in the voter guide at lwvelginarea.org. That is on the bottom of the sheet that was given to you also. That's where the recording will also be. The format for this evening will be different from past candidate forums. The candidates will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Then, instead of specific questions from the moderator and the audience, each will have 2 minutes to give their views on several general topics. Each candidate will have the option to speak on all of the topics or skip one if he chooses. This evening, you're going to have a chance to hear from the candidates for East Dundee Trustees for 3 open 4-year terms and 1 2-year term. Our timekeeper will show the candidates when they have 1 minute left, 30 seconds, and when their time is up. We ask you, the audience members, to please silence all cell phones and remain silent and seated during the forum. This forum will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel, where it will be available for viewing via links on our website, lwvelginarea.org, and our Facebook page. Tonight we have 5 of the candidates for the 3 4-year seats on the East Dundee Board of Trustees. Ryan Gumma, Scott Kunze, Kathleen Mahony, Daniel Pearson, and Richard Treiber. So we want to welcome our candidates and thank you for agreeing to participate tonight. Mr. Gumma, we'll begin with your 3-minute introduction, please.
Hello, my name is Ryan Gumma, running for East Dundee Trustee. I'm a lifelong resident of the Northwest Suburbs. I've been an East Dundee resident for about 20 years. I'm married with 2 kids, Allie and Ethan, with one attending Emmanuel Lutheran here in East Dundee. We love our town. We can frequently be seen out and about at restaurants, events, walking around town, on the bike path, at the local coffee shop, or playing at the park with our kids. Our kids absolutely love this town and the small town charm we've come to know as East Dundee. And that's one of the many reasons I'm running for trustee. I'm brand new to politics and look forward to coming up with some fresh ideas for the village. I'm also a small business owner in East Dundee. We work with many local businesses here in town and the surrounding areas. We employ about 35 people local to the area. My business has been in East Dundee since 2006, and I look forward to being part of the business community for years to come. Being a longtime East Dundee small business owner and a longtime East Dundee resident, I feel like I'm in touch with a lot that happens here in the community. I talk to residents about their specific issues. I talk to local businesses about their concerns. I'm running for trustee to better our community and serve the residents and businesses of East Dundee. I want to get more involved in the community and its direction. I see so much potential here, and I plan on being here with my family for years to come. I want to show my kids that it's important for us to step up and do something for the community that has done so much for us. I would also like to talk about a few of the other candidates here tonight. As some of you may have seen, there's a few signs with myself, Rich Treiber, Dan Pearson, and Shanna McKee on them. All of these other candidates can stand alone on their individual values and visions. But when we met at the beginning of this campaign, we decided that we have similar goals and could really work as a team to get where we see East Dundee growing. We decided to get organized and get campaigning to show we can work as a team even during a stressful election. I feel this is what East Dundee needs, a team that can work together, not a divided board that has had trouble getting things done. It's time for a change, and many of the local businesses and residents have echoed this sentiment by supporting the four of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kunze, your 3-minute introduction, please.
I apologize. Okay. My name is Scott Kunze. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum, and I want to thank all the residents who showed up. I've been a resident here since 2004. I'm married. I have a wife, 3 kids, and 2 stepkids. I have been privileged to represent East Dundee for the past 4 years. It's an absolute honor to serve as a trustee. I also serve on the Quadcom board for East Dundee as our representative. I have, for the past 2 years, organized Fox River cleanup events on the annual Friends of the Fox River event as well. Which I guess I should say I will continue to do regardless if I'm reelected or not. So that wasn't a threat to stop that.
If you should speak up, just.
Okay, sorry. I have tried to be the kind of trustee that I would want to represent me. Someone who listens, is not quick to react, someone who takes the time to research what they are voting on, someone who listens and considers all sides of something. And most importantly, someone who engages with residents and not just their friends, even people who disagree with them. No two people are alike. The same goes for this village. We all have our own idea of what is best for this village. So as a trustee, we need to weigh all points of view and do what we think is best. It's not an easy job. I believe very strongly in transparent and open government. I believe very strongly that if you, as a resident, request from a trustee to meet or a trustee candidate to meet and they do not make time for you, you should not vote for them. This is a small town. There's no excuse for not responding to residents. And that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Mahony.
Good evening. Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to meet in person with the rest of the candidates and the community that's interested. My name is Kathleen Mahony, and I've made my home in East Dundee along with my spouse and my rescue dog, Dominic, and we are going on year 22 in this village. Thanks to its location and recreational opportunities of the Fox River and the Fox River Bike Trail and the quaint village center that has grown over those years. I'm excited to be running in my very first re-election. I've grown to love my village, and that love is demonstrated in giving back to the community in the following roles. Starting in 2014, I was involved in a community group which stopped the rezoning for apartments that were planned to be next door to a sewage treatment plant, an operation destined to fail. My driver to my involvement in that group was to protect the value of my home and with the concern over traffic and safety in our neighborhood. In 2005, I served a 2-year term as a planning and zoning commissioner, appointed by village board and president number 1. In 2007, for 2 years, I served as a village trustee, appointed by village president number 2 and board number 2. In 2010, for the next 6 years, I was a board member of the Dundee Township Visitor Center, and the Depot Board hosts the Saturday Depot Market, as well as staffs the depot itself for visitors. In 2017, I served again as a village trustee appointed by village president and board number 3. I figured I finally got the hang of it, and in 2019, I was elected and served as a village trustee to this day as in the general village committee and special events committee. When presented with an issue as a trustee, I may have a personal or gut reaction in favor to or not to a specific proposal. However, as a trustee, I represent all of the residents in East Dundee, many more interests than myself, so I research with staff, board, and residents. To those who supported me in 2019, thank you for your faith in my leadership. And to those who are getting to know me, I ask for your support. You can find me at the top of the ballot for the trustees seeking a 4-year term.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you to the Women's League. Thank you for everybody being out here. It's nice to actually have an audience in here. I didn't anticipate so many people. My name is Daniel Pearson. I grew up in the area. I lived in East Dundee about 3 years now, maybe a little bit more. Grew up in Carpentersville, and family has been in East Dundee and in Carpentersville for a long time. I'm married. I have a daughter who's 27, out of the house, thankfully. I started off in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years in the Gulf War, so Gulf War veteran. While I was in, I got involved in the fire department, the volunteer fire department, because I have a family history in the fire department. Once I got out, I got on a full-time fire department, which is Hoffman Estates. I've been there 26 years. From there, while I was in, I obtained a bachelor's degree in business management. I also became the commander locally here at the West Dundee Veterans of Foreign Wars for about 6 years, and we kind of flipped that place around. With the help of a lot of the members, we were able to change the place, and it actually is making money now, so that's kind of nice. I was still an active member with them. In that position, I got to work with West Dundee a lot, with volunteer organizations. We did a lot of donating, and I got to see a little bit more of how villages work. I'm also currently on the East Dundee Fire Department Fire Commissioner. I'm a fire commissioner now. It's a new thing that they had to do because they hired over 15 people, so now they had to start their own fire commission. With that, I own my own safety business. The reason why I bring that up is because the majority of my clients are public works, so I see a lot of different interactions of the government. The reason, and my wife, she's currently a CSI, been there about 21 years in Carpentersville for the police department. So I have a good working knowledge of how the government works. My position with the fire department now is a training officer. So I don't know everything. I'm always willing to learn. Obviously, that's my background. I do know a little bit with how it works, but like I said, I have a lot more to learn. Like Ryan said, we do have a group of 4 of us that are running together. We do have a lot of the same goals, but you have to remember we bring a lot of different experiences, and we are individuals. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Treiber.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody tonight. Appreciate you coming out to give us all some of your time on a nice Tuesday. I am Rich Treiber. I've lived in East Dundee for the last 5.5 years. I have an amazing, supportive wife, 2 children, and 1 more on the way. I love being involved and giving back to the community. I've always been involved in some capacity. I'm a youth hockey coach out in West Dundee at Leafs Hockey Club, where I actually work with kids of all ages, boys and girls, helping them with their athletic goals, and then also helping to mold young adults of the future. So during my personal time, actually, this last 2 years since COVID, I took the 10U team with Leafs Hockey Club, and through some of their hard work and determination over the last year, we actually just won the state championship this past Sunday. So if my voice gives out on me, I'm still recovering. It's only been 48 hours, and I apologize. I've served on the board the last 2 years. After my appointment in 2021, my viewpoint is based on 3 pretty simple things. Every time I vote, it's going to be my family, my neighbors, my property. I definitely want to leave East Dundee better than I found it. I do stick to my beliefs and I don't sway from my morals. You'll also notice that I've been on, the opposite side of some of the popular votes. So, I definitely listen to the residents. I'm their vehicle for voice and change, and I pay the taxes. I'm out and about. I love hanging out in the community like the rest of our wonderful town, and I can assure you that I want to keep it that way. I want to keep it a very enjoyable town, and I want to keep our taxes incredibly low. I've learned an incredible amount, over the last 2 years just by getting involved. I give a lot of kudos to obviously everybody up here for giving it their all and getting involved in this. This is definitely not your average volunteer gig. But what made me want to get involved is actually my young family, proving to my kids that, you can do anything you set your mind to, and then also, just want to make a difference in the community. Made many great friendships over the years with the residents, as well as, some of the business owners throughout town, all of which help create, this amazing atmosphere that East Dundee is. Some of the things that I'm going to be focusing on over the next 4 years are definitely keeping East Dundee a family-friendly, safe environment, improving the overall water quality in the village. I'm from the Flats, so that's a huge staple for me. We're going to address the parking issues in downtown. I'd like to invest in our riverfront and also, continue to add to our community in the way of residential and new developments where possible. So, thank you again.
Thank you. If you would pass the mic back down. Okay, next we're going to ask the candidates for their views on 4 pre-selected topics that were given to them in advance. The 4 topics for East Dundee trustee candidates are economic development, budget priorities and funding, community safety and services, and infrastructure and maintenance. We're going to begin with economic development, and Mr. Gumma, you have 2 minutes to give us your views.
Okay, regarding economic development, this is a big one for me. While the village has seen some great development and improvements on the east end of town, there has been a big stall in downtown development. This is for a number of reasons, but the main reason is parking. The downtown has a hard time sustaining parking for the current businesses, let alone whatever new development projects may arise. This has scared some business opportunities away from the downtown. Parking has been an issue that everyone has talked a lot about, including the current board. However, with the current board, it has been just that, a lot of talk. We need to get a parking solution for downtown, and the current board has proven that they can't get it done. It's time to get a board that can work together to get this done. One of the other reasons is that business owners have seen they've had to jump through loopholes to get things done with the board down here. So I think there's a lot of potential for residential developments and business developments downtown. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Kunze, what are your thoughts on economic development?
Thank you. In my 4 years on the board, we have not turned down any developers. Not a single development deal that was proposed to the board was denied. We approved the Caterpillar facility east of Route 25. We even made a new TIF district for them. We approved the High Street warehouse currently being constructed on Route 72. We approved a second pair of apartment buildings behind the old Dominic's building. We approved a second industrial building behind where the Speedway was built on Route 72. I say all this to make sure we all realize this has been a very friendly board to developers. I am not anti-developer. What I am against is development deals that put this village in debt, as has already happened very recently in this village history. We are still paying for those bad development deals. I'm also against the idea that a developer who wants to control what our government does. I am against the kind of developer that wants to go so far as to dictate who sits on our board. It's our board. The residents of this village. So yes, let's continue developing the village, which is growing extremely fast. We are becoming more and more attractive to developers, We can diversify who our developers are. We don't need to rely on one or two developers. We're becoming more and more attractive to new residents, and hopefully we can redevelop the Hager site into residential and finally get some population growth as well. That would go great in supporting our downtown businesses. As for a parking garage downtown, the price tag on that would certainly put this village in debt. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. Ms. Mahoney, your views on economic development.
Absolutely. So for a village to be successful in economic development, the best thing for the village to do is to be as welcoming and as easy to work as possible to parties that want to build or establish new businesses in East Dundee. Scott has done a good job in outlining some of the successes we've had, but to show the breadth of the successes, we've just demonstrated our ability to be welcoming and successful in bringing new businesses forward, like the Altorfer Cat, that not only required what Scott mentioned, but annexation into East Dundee, zoning and TIF agreements, to small businesses like Willow and Birch that just moved in on River Street that required special use permits for the types of services that they offer that aren't readily known. And they're new services, and they're important to the village. We have exciting projects in the pipeline, and I would love the opportunity to be a part of seeing them through to approval and completion. Developers are a tricky bunch, and as a trustee, we need to balance their desire to make as much money as possible against how it will affect the residents and other established businesses. It's critical for trustees or candidates not to be encumbered or beholden to a developer or developers, perhaps unintentionally. 3 new candidates and an existing one have done that by violating Chapter 156 of the sign ordinance for 4 signs on Route 72. That exceeds the allowed size. But now one of our largest developers is being fined for that violation, and the signs still remain 3 weeks after they were notified. Village leaders must, and candidates should, adhere to village ordinances, as our oath requires us to do, and as a voter, those are the candidates that I would support. I'm solely financing my campaign and independently running and ask for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, your thoughts on economic development?
Okay, one of the things that I learned while I was over at the Veterans of Foreign War was how villages really put the hammer down on licenses and permits and things like that. But when you ask them for help, all of a sudden they turn a blind eye for you. We have a great community here. We have parking that's been blocked off. We have gravel parking lots that are blocked off. Who's working with the owners of those properties to actually utilize those properties? They've been sitting there for how long now? A couple of years they've been sitting there. Just kind of waiting for the board that's in place right now to work with them. It doesn't cost much money, maybe a handshake to talk to them and work something out. Obviously the developers, the owners of that own a lot of other property in this area. It would benefit them to create more parking. But because of the relationships that are in the past, it's not happening. Anyway, so yes, some of the things we need to work with is create more parking, obviously, and it's just not just downtown here. The village has purchased the Hager Pottery property. We're going to need to develop Route 72 and 25, and east of there needs to be developed. Out east, there was a 5-year study saying that high-income apartments is going to be a really, really big thought-after source of living. So maybe that's something we need to look at and maybe do a study for. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Treiber.
Yes. So thank you. So, obviously being, a municipality, the only way we can generate revenue is through property tax and sales tax. We can attempt to be lucrative with the types of businesses that we bring into the community. We can bring in entertainment, right? Which yields a different tax type, an amusement tax, which is 5%. So think axe throwing downtown, bowling alleys, movie theaters. Obviously, in terms of being a trustee and being on the village board, you can't put bowling alleys, movie theaters, and axe throwing places all up and down and expect to actually have everyone be successful. So, obviously there's multiple different ways that we have at our disposal to actually attract new businesses, and one of them are our booming TIF districts that we have in place. There are multiple properties the village has already acquired in our downtown as well as along Route 72, and hopes to add the right developments in our community and allow us a better seat at the table to ensure that the best interests of our residents are being kept with the developers. People often think of East Dundee also being a landlocked community. We have the opportunity of annexing industrial lands into East Dundee, adding more potential for sales, property tax down the line with businesses that want to take a chance on us. Obviously, this means for us, more revenue to help us pay for the hard costs for East Dundee in terms of the roads, water, sewer, police, and fire, which are all often very overlooked. So on top of that, I'd like to continue to look for funding from the state, county, as well as federal government for programs. Also, in order to continue investments into parking, the riverfront, and even some, water remediations in terms of lead pipe replacement and other unique projects.
Thank you. If you would pass the mic back to Mr. Kunze. The next topic we have is budget priorities and funding, and we're going to begin with Mr. Kunze.
Thank you. This village has spent very conservatively over the past 6 years because of that debt that I previously mentioned. It's put us in a great position financially. During that time, we let some of our infrastructure projects be put on hold. I really think we need to increase our roads budget going forth. Right now, we do a survey each year of all our roads and rank them from worst to best. Then we use the budgeted amount to repave and patch the worst roads until the money runs out. I'd like to increase that amount so we can hasten our road repairs. We have some major road projects that need attention. 59% of our budget goes to the police force. The next highest department is Public Works at just 13%. The bad news is the police department is going to need even more money. The good news is that our revenues are really starting to increase due to the amount of development that has taken place over the last decade. So even if we maintain the 59% in our budget, the dollar amount is increasing. But we do need to give our attention to our police pension. The thing about pensions is the money you put in now saves a lot of money in the future, which is why last night in our meeting I proposed we take some of the money we have set aside in our rainy day fund and put it into the police pension. Either way, it's our money. Either way, it's collecting interest. It's just a question of where that interest goes. East Dundee has a great tradition. In fact, just last night we exercised that tradition. Due to our home rule standing and the sales tax we generate from that, we do not collect property taxes to fund our general fund. But that is a choice that we have to make every year. It's not a foregone conclusion. In fact, the past 2 years, our village president has criticized the board for not raising your taxes more. And last night, he floated the idea of not abating our property taxes, which we all voted to keep in our home rule vote just a few years ago, overwhelmingly.
Thank you. Ms. Mahony, budget priorities and funding.
Absolutely. So in ranking our budget priorities, as Scott mentioned, police pension is key. It's one of our most pressing issues. And in the past, it's been all on the shoulders of our residents as in the form of the only part of the tax that you'll see on your property tax is going in funding the police pension. This year, in order to get to the recommended amount, we are in the position within our general fund and that to be able to add to that along the add to what the property tax will bring to the police pension fund. I agree that with Scott, that we need to look at potentially doing more so that we can alleviate any future increases in the pension fund property tax. Our Moody's rating has been strong, or has been stable for the last 2 years. We climbed up 2 years ago, now we remain stable. And the police pension is the one thing that is keeping us from even excelling higher in our rating. And then having the funds to be able to support our developers and create a better environment along the river and the river path and the development, so that we can have something that would mirror what West Dundee is doing, and we can really enjoy the riverfront, as well as tying it into the successes that we've had along River Street. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, can you share your thoughts on budget priorities and funding, please?
Not having an intimate relationship with the budget, I did some research. As what was stated, property tax goes right to the police pension. The last market analysis I see that East Dundee did was in 2017. Basically says where they get the most money from, or we get the most money from, is the gas stations and convenience stores. Close second is bars and restaurants. What does that tell us? That's basically going to be taking care of our infrastructure, is our sales tax, and then also what the board put in place is our entertainment tax. Well, how do we get that? By having people come into our town and go into our businesses. We also need to look at our TIF districts. We have 9 of them. It's getting to be a little bit too much for us to handle. I think we need to pay that down also. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Treiber, budget priorities and funding.
Yes, so there's been some good points made, so I will not belabor to rehash. But obviously everybody knows the police pension is a huge focus for us moving forward, as well as just paying down the deficit that we've had over the last couple of years. Everything a village does, is obviously tied to the budget. And as a trustee, I promise to continue to be a good steward of village funds and exercise cautious spending. The one thing that I do think that East Dundee can benefit from is, starting to view, the village, the municipality as, a small business, taking a different mindset. I think that there's been some things we've had some excessive spending on in the few years that we really need to rein in, and others that we can do a good job looking out for moving forward. So, on top of that, I think that's really all I got for this one. So.
Thank you. If you'd pass the mic down to Mr. Gumma, and we'll ask for his views on budget priorities and funding.
So we're a small community and don't have a huge budget, so we need to keep a close eye on where the village's money goes. I really do not want to see the village take on more debt. There may be some places where we can cut some spending, but from what I can see, the budget is pretty tight already. The best way to increase our income is to fill some vacant storefronts and get some more residents in town. That being said, my top budget priorities for the village would be, number 1, find a permanent parking solution. We have a lively downtown district and we're scaring potential customers away, forcing them to circle the area in search of safe and convenient parking. As Dan said, that's our number 2 revenue. I know the village has already secured some funding assistance and there may be other opportunities out there. Number 2 is to fill vacant storefronts with tenants that best serve our community. Number 3 would be to start to implement a plan to improve our water system. Number 4, to continue to seek opportunities to add residential units to the village to increase our population. As a landlocked village, we really need to do our homework on getting some more residents in town. Residents pay taxes, residents support our businesses, and residents are what make our community.
Thank you. The third topic is going to be community safety and services, and we're going to begin with Ms. Mahony.
We anticipated correctly. Yes. Well, I'm really proud of our police department. We have wonderful new leadership. In fact, he was named the Illinois Chief of the Year for 2022. We have a wonderful department that's been nurtured over the years, that's focused on community policing and being proactive, and when problems arise, so that the problem doesn't happen again. Police department is 59% of the budget right now, and it costs to keep the police department up with all of the technology and the safety equipment, as well as the staffing that they're going to need to cover the village, and I support that. And one example of one of the proactive measures that was taken back in December is based on the issues that we had last summer with some unfortunate firearm incidents at two separate bars, that in addition to the Bassett training that is already required by management and any bartender and owner, that they are going to be undergoing a 2-hour special training that is going to be required and renewed every 2 years, that will help them be able to navigate those challenging situations so that the bar owners can keep their customers and their staff as safe as possible. So I'm really, really proud of that, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, your views on community safety and services.
Okay, the police chief did a presentation last night, did a great job. Police calls last year, this past year, 2022, was 4,977. It's up from 2 years prior to 25%. It's up by 25%, excuse me. That could always be brought because of COVID and things like that. Businesses weren't open. What I do see, though, is obviously we need more businesses and we need more residents, but the need for police is probably going to increase. The calls are going to go up. We're going to need them. If it's busy during the weekends down here, who's on our streets? They only have 2, sometimes 3 officers in the area. And if one is tied up on a DUI or on any sort of investigation, that leaves us 1 or 2. And where are they going to be at? Downtown. We're going to need them in our town. So future, we're obviously going to need to do that. How are we going to do that? Like Ryan said, is bring in some businesses and bring in some residents, more residents. The other thing we can do is, just like Kathleen was saying, do a study. Where are all of our assaults coming from? Where is the majority of our calls coming from? The dispatch system that Quadcom has now can let us know. They can do the tracking, and they can tell us where the hot spots are. And we could educate the bar owners or even work with them so they can get their own security and they pay for it so we don't have to do that. That would help out our police department. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Treiber, community safety and services.
Yes. So in terms of the community safety and service, I do think our chief of police, as you heard from everybody, is fantastic. The department has done a great job. Obviously, Dan had just mentioned that he gave a presentation last night. We got to get a look under the hood at what 2022 yielded for our community. And obviously it's a mix. I also sit on the liquor commission, and I can say that chief, our police force, everybody has done a fantastic job, whether it be the bar restaurant owners all the way to our police force in terms of enforcing our policies and our laws downtown. Believe it or not, for having as many bars in the nightlife that we have, our residents, our restaurants, our bars, the businesses downtown all do a very good job of regulating everything that's within their power. I think that's been one of the most cool things to see within our liquor commission. But what's the saying? Nine bars and 2 churches. So we do our best. I'd say in the future, obviously, we have, potential growth facing us right now. Obviously, we're working our way through the police pension, trying to get caught up. I do think that there is a time, maybe in the next 4 years, where more officers will be added to the force. Maybe there's, another shift added. So there's things like that to definitely keep in mind with the growth, with the amount of people we bring in town. And also, last plug for Chief in our department. I think they do a great job getting out and meeting the residents and really making the community feel like we are safe. So.
Thank you. Pass the mic back down. We'll be hearing from Mr. Gumma on community safety and services.
Pretty much on the same page with everyone here. I had the privilege of listening to Chief Kruger's police activity presentation just yesterday. I would have to say that I'm happy with community safety and all the work that the police and fire departments do. It's also nice to see the police presence at all the community events. And most mornings when I drop off at Emmanuel, there's a friendly officer there to greet the kids and parents. My kids and family always feel safe walking around town and being out at any of the community events. That's all I have.
Mr. Kunze.
Thank you. Well, this is a timely question because, as was stated earlier, we had our police chief give us a year-long review of their activities. Due to the success of our businesses and the large truck parking presence east of Route 25, our service calls actually outpaced West Dundee this year. Crime is not out of control. It is basically just returning to where it was pre-pandemic levels, but as the village grows, we may have to increase the size of our police force. This is something I said I was against at the Daily Herald Candidate Forum, but given the new information we received last night, I am more open to the idea of adding a police officer. That, by the way, is one of my traits. My mind can be changed by new information. As part of my work on the Liquor Commission, I asked our police chiefs for ways to be proactive rather than reactive to our issues with incidents that occur late nights at our bars. Through this, we came up with the idea that Kathleen mentioned for the training for our bar users. This allows them to meet with our police chief and our police officers to talk about incidents that are happening in the village, so we can be proactive at cutting those off. As for the second part of this category, services, one thing I asked at the last budget was if we would benefit from hiring or contracting a social worker for our police department, something that more and more police departments are doing. It was decided at that time that we were going to try and work with social workers that the county provided. I'll bring that up again at our next budget talk, because the truth is, all those service calls we get, a very unfortunate amount of them have to do with mental health, something that is at a bit of a pandemic level in this post-COVID world.
Thank you. If you would pass it to Mr. Pearson, he's going to go first next. Our fourth and final topic will be infrastructure and maintenance. What does the village need? Mr. Pearson.
More residents and business. So obviously, again, I'm not really privy to a lot of this, but I did do some research, of course, and I found their 6-year plan that the village did, and it's up in 2024. Great plan. I just don't know where we're at with it. I do know that our water distribution lines up by Lions Park have issues. There's a lot of rust that's coming out. I have spoke with Trustee Mahony. She did a great job of pointing me to the right people and stuff. The problem is it's just an old system. It's needs some work with it. So I do know that needs to be done. In the future, just knowing how the technology goes and how fire departments and police departments work, police departments, their technology is going to continue to change. So we need more police. We're going to need more of that. More technology, more police cars to add to it. Fire department's obviously a district, so a separate entity. But that's all I know about it. Thanks.
Mr. Treiber, infrastructure and maintenance.
All right. Well, I know a few things have been touched on tonight that we get to be a little repetitive about, but the water quality. I live down in the flats here, down by the river, not in a van, in a house, and sorry. I couldn't help myself. So in terms of the water quality, I know we will be replacing some dead end lines, throughout the community, which should have a big difference. What I do think that we should also do beyond this for water quality's sake is either bring in an independent consultant. I know there's some other companies out there, Baxter Woodman, some other good options that we could use that could be very beneficial to making sure we maintain high quality water. I think everybody deserves it. But also the next few years, I think that there's going to be obviously roads, repairs, things like that are going to be done. I think one of the best things that we could have done, and look forward to other ways where it might be possible moving forward, the truck parking tax, to help offset a lot of the wear and tear on our roads. Obviously, Public Works just was doing a huge study a few weeks ago about just how many trucks we see a day going through our downtown areas. So I think that that'll definitely be a topic of focus here as we move through the next 4 years.
Okay, next up, we're gonna have Mr. Gumma, your views on infrastructure and maintenance needs.
One of the top infrastructure complaints I've heard from residents is the water system. From what I hear, there are a number of things that need to be addressed here. There are some lead issues, there are some dead-end water main issues, and there are water pressure issues, and the rust issues that Dan mentioned. I feel like there needs to be a long-term approach to the water system with some funds budgeted for this project for a number of years. One thing I would like to do if elected is set up a small committee to really dig into this and talk to some other local communities, especially a few larger communities, and look for some guidance and education on getting our water system up to par. There are plenty of resources out there, just need to take the time to talk to people. The other infrastructure item would be parking, which I've already talked about. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kunze, infrastructure and maintenance.
Thank you. Well, this goes back to the budget question and our street repair program. As I said earlier, I would really like to increase the budget that we currently allot for road repairs. We have some major projects that need to be done on our roads. For instance, in the flats, we have a couple roads that were paved, and instead of peeling back and repaving them, we just put asphalt over the road, right over the curbs. It's not the way to do it, but it is what it is. So those need to be replaced, but it's expensive. Also, water. We have, as was mentioned, we're putting in more water mains to circulate the water. That should help in the flats. A couple of weeks ago, in our meeting, I recommended that we do a village-wide survey of residents, because the truth is, everybody seems to have a different experience with our water, and I'd like to know where are the issues. It could be specific areas. It could be a wide area. I mean, we should find out where we're at. And it was mentioned we would wait until after we complete this circulation project, which I think makes sense. So hopefully after that we'll do that. I actually like the idea Rich mentioned about maybe hiring a consultant. We actually have a consultant that we use on our water, wastewater, but we don't have one on the front end. So I think that's a good idea, Rich.
Okay, and finally, Ms. Mahony, your thoughts on infrastructure and maintenance needs.
So the key word is maintenance, right? It's like laundry. You always need to take care of it. We spend about $3.6 million of our budget on infrastructure, and that's gray infrastructure, which includes our water mains, our water supplies, which is East Dundee. It's not from other services like West Dundee, outsources their water supply to their village. And so yes, we are looking with the larger Fox Valley group that manages water and wastewater treatment to see if they can, we've just started it, it's just starting to be in work, to see what kind of information that we can learn from them from their expertise so that we can apply it to what we do in the village. The streets program, everybody, Scott talked about with the grading every year and addressing the worst problems. The one thing I do want to talk about is something that we touched on last night in our meeting, and that a lot of people don't think about with infrastructure, is the green canopy. It's key to the health and welfare of our community for groundwater management, for stormwater runoff, for air quality. And last night we did, along with some of our neighbors, a presentation. We've been working on it for about a year to preserve that green canopy that is now being threatened by the gypsy moths. We are looking at remediating and addressing the infestation that has been found this last summer, again for next summer, when we can make some positive effect and hopefully maintain the beautiful old oaks and tree coverage that we have in our neighborhoods.
I think you were the last one on that. I want to thank all of these candidates for participating in this Meet the Candidates night. These again are the candidates for 3 4-year term seats. And in a minute, we're going to be hearing from the ones for the 2-year seat. For more information on these candidates, please check the voter guide on our website, lwvelginarea.org, which is on the bottom of the sheet that you were given. Next up, we're going to take just a few minutes to bring up the 2 candidates for the 2-year term seat, Shanna McKee and Andrew Sauder. I hope you all will stay to hear the other 2. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, welcome to our candidates, and thank you for agreeing to participate tonight. I'm not going to go through all the preliminary introductory stuff. We'll just begin with Ms. McKee and your 3-minute introduction.
Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shanna McKee and I am running for trustee for East Dundee. It does sound that way, it just fell into place. I am a wife, mother, small business owner, and 7-year resident of East Dundee. I am a proud wife to a hardworking public works union employee. He works very hard, so I have a lot to talk about on the water infrastructure when we come to talk about that. I have a 5-year-old daughter who attends the pre-K program at Emmanuel, and we moved to this town because it was up the street from our favorite downtown area. And when we bought the home, it was in bad shape, 1800s, and we knew we were gonna have to invest into the home, but we wanted to because we love this town. I'm running because I'm genuinely passionate about living here. I love being here. We're planting roots here. We're investing here. It's important that I kind of set the stages that there was no recruiting for what I'm doing. It was individuals felt that my knowledge and my passion for the town is what the town needs. My visions, my values, my morals, and my everyday living. So that's why I chose to run. I'm not a politician. I do not want to become a politician. I want to be a sounding board for myself. I want to be a sounding board for the residents, and as a small business owner, I want to be a sounding board for the small business owners as well. While I have not held a trustee spot before, I am very experienced and well-versed in working in group settings to determine policy and make informed decisions. My style to reach agreements and manage local government starts with educating myself on the topics in hand and listening to the voices of the residents, administration, board, and small businesses of the community. I have the ability to navigate uphill struggles and can handle leadership differences in ways to help move the agenda forward. I make decisions based off research, data, education, logic, documentation, and that is how I will cast my vote if elected. I will not make my decisions based on who I like or dislike. If it's right for the community and myself as a resident, I will vote yes. If it is not, I will vote no. I am proud to have experienced this with Ryan, Dan, Rich, and to have the sponsorship and the support of local businesses and residents who truly believe in what we're doing. And this has been a great journey and a proud moment I've had with my daughter, who has watched her mom work hard for something, not give up, and regardless of the outcome, this has been a great experience. I'm getting to know a lot of people and plant more roots in this community. Thank you so much, and I'll just have to plug, vote McKee for trustee for East Dundee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sauder, your introduction, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Andy Sauder. I have lived in the town for about 15 years. I went from living in Schaumburg and having an hour commute every day to living and working in East Dundee with just a short walk into the downtown. I do graphic design. Now I work in Geneva as an art director, and twice a week we'll bike on the Fox River Trail to Geneva and back as my commute, not in the winter. But that's part of what I love about this area is the Fox River Trail, the downtown, having the historic charm and the old buildings. My wife, Erin, is a reporter who used to cover this area, so that's maybe how I got pulled into this, is that she had covered the town for about 10 years for the Tribune and the Courier. Starting in 2020, hasn't covered this area since, but covers other areas, and that's why kind of came on the radar that I could maybe do this, and then I was pulled in through a vacancy on a seat, and all sides agreeing to appoint me in a seat that was being challenged. So about a year ago I got pulled into it and have enjoyed it, and I've in the last year joined the Arts Council, and we're working on a mural project that'll go next to the Dairy Queen. So we're working on vetting a few artists to put in there. So art and design is kind of a major passion, and then Main Street Bikes, I ride with their bike team, so kind of making it a walkable and bike-friendly community is another incentive or a focus of mine. I've done a lot of volunteering with the Rotary Club of Carpentersville, so I've kind of met a few people in the area, and that's kind of pulled me into it as well. But see myself as a very kind of a quieter, like, will process and listen and think about issues, come up with what I think, and then present it, and then am happy to change directions if new information comes up. So try not to ever make it a personal issue, or we're debating and talking about ideas, but we're not attacking people ever. So another thing that kind of pulled me into this for getting to know neighbors, when we first moved in, we found out shortly after moving in near the river that we were put into a floodplain, and so we had to start paying an extra flood insurance. So started coming to these meetings to figure out what happened and what we should do, and then grouped together with a bunch of neighbors to do a group survey across about 20 homes, and then got a lower rate. So, but that's all for time.
Thank you. Now we're going to ask these candidates for their views on the same 4 topics that were given to them in advance. They are economic development, budget priorities and funding, community safety and services, and infrastructure and maintenance. And we're going to begin with economic development. And Ms. McKee, you have 2 minutes to give us your views.
Well, for economic development, we know it's an investment into our town, and we want to enhance the quality of East Dundee for us as residents, as well as paving the way for future generations. I think we have to make sure that we talk about our kids' kids. The decisions we make are going to impact the future. So I'm very heavily on filling vacant storefronts. Obviously, we want to bring in more of that charm. Small businesses, ideal, would really fit the charm here in town. But it will create tax revenue. It will create jobs. But we also at the same time want to be cognizant of what we are bringing into this town. We want to make sure that it fits our town. We want to make sure that it is long-term what the town is going to need and the town is going to benefit from it. Also, too, parking solutions. I live right up Van Buren. I am right up, or Jackson, I am right up the street from Bandito's. So I have people turning around. I have my street completely blocked off when there are amazing events in town that we love. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant as well that we don't have enough parking. And parking solution comes with a potential parking garage, parking structure. We can entertain the idea of paid parking and see if that can bring in revenue, see if how patrons are going to feel about that. But it's really important to understand that the convenience to us as residents, we need to increase parking, especially now with the 2-inch snow parking ordinance. We are going to eliminate even more parking come snow weather. So I think filling vacant storefronts and the parking solution to really help eliminate the lack of parking problem that we do have in East Dundee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sauder, your thoughts on economic development, please.
Yes. First of all, our town is actually in a great spot economically. When we moved in, there were a lot of vacancies in the downtown. There were a lot of bars that would start up, and then a year later they're gone. I remember some spaces having 3 or 4 that would go through in the course of a few years. But now there are almost no vacancies for businesses in the downtown, at least. I think it's really important to focus on the Route 25 area, the Dominic's building in that area, making sure those get filled. The parking issue is definitely something that's on the radar. There are challenges with having private owners owning these lots and not agreeing to some of the solutions, but I feel like we're very open to all solutions, or I am at least, of whether it's a parking lot or a parking garage, if we can get the proper funding or grants to make the costs come down lower to the same as what a parking lot would be. But there are many avenues that we're exploring, and we'll continue to. There's a Prairie Lakes TIF that just came offline in the last year that now generates close to $1.2 million a year in revenue yearly. So TIFs can be very effective as long as they are increasing the EAV or the property value. And so I think it's really important to keep a close eye on TIFs and make sure that there are incentives to help developers, but also money coming back to help the community and support the infrastructure around that development. And that is all.
You may keep it because we're going to let you go first this one.
Right.
The next topic is budget priorities and funding, and we'll begin with Mr. Sauder.
As pointed out earlier, our town is in a much better spot financially than it was even a few years ago. We do have a very strong team, our administrator and our financial team. So our budget has improved, and we still need to fund the police pension fund, which is underfunded. So we do need to find ways to find more revenue. I'd like to explore any other solution before raising property taxes. I think that might need to happen, but I would count that as a last resort. So finding different revenue streams that don't affect the property owners. So some of those things are like in the TIFs that have been in place with the truck parking area, since there aren't sales taxes coming in, coming up with a semi-truck parking tax to make sure that revenue is coming in from that area so that we are keeping up the roads that all of these thousands of semis are on, just making sure that that is incentivizing the development as well as the community. So I think that's a very important area to continue to make sure that we are balancing the amount of police calls that need to go out there and the money that's coming back. I do also think that a data analytics solution is something that could help us. We're exploring some options for technology to scan through the data from many different sources to make sure that businesses that should be paying their taxes are paying them, even though it is most businesses' goal to pay as little tax as possible. So looking for other ways that we can find revenues besides property taxes.
Thank you. Ms. McKee, your views on budget priorities and funding.
Thank you. A lot, as a resident, obviously not on the board or haven't held a seat before, there's a lot of information in terms of the budget that I'm not privy to. But as a data analyst, all I do is research. So that is what I did for this. And When we think about budget and funding, a lot falls under the words budget and funding. It's necessities, it's want, it's savings, it's debt, it's repayment. So it's critical to focus on, again, what I'm striving to focus on is the future outcomes when making these decisions. And I go back to my point of filling the vacant storefronts, whether it be in the downtown area or in the outskirts of the downtown area, and to bring in more tax revenue, allowing for additional funds to allocate. I want to spend the majority of my time talking about, I am a huge advocate for our first responders, and with that comes our police. And it makes me very happy to hear everybody talking about supporting our law enforcement and the pension, because it is very important. They're taking care of us, so we need to find a way to be taking care of them as well. We need to look for areas to allocate. Why we take 59% of the budget, that's a lot, but I'm proud that it is that much. But as a resident, right, we want to try to find ways to eliminate the resident responsibility. And I did some research, and currently our public works employees do not service water main breaks or the concrete or the sidewalks in town. We do contract that out. That is a very expensive cost. So I would, if elected, I would look into proposing a different way on how we can make sure our public works employees are staying in town and they are servicing our water main breaks as well as the sidewalks, and figure out where that money that we're saving from contractors could actually go to offset the resident responsibility for the police pension.
Thank you. The third topic is community safety and services, and this time we'll let Ms. McKee go first.
Turn my note card. I love this town, and I love this town because I feel safe in this town. I've been coming to this town before I was a mother walking the streets with my daughter, and now that I am a mother walking the streets with my daughter, I see police presence everywhere. I know Ryan had mentioned there's a police officer outside of Emmanuel, and they say hi. Her first day of school, he took a picture with her, and they're always at the community events, and they're enjoying the town. I feel very safe here. I want to continue to feel very safe here. So after the board meeting last night, we've mentioned the chief had talked about the statistics. They're not alarming, but they are increasing. However, our police staff is maintaining. So it is important that we have to look into a way on how we can increase the bandwidth of our police officers who are going to be on a 2 to 3 hour call from response to completion. Who is taking care of the streets while the town's and there's community events. So that, obviously, I want to make sure that we maintain that community safety by making sure that our streets are protected with our law enforcement. 1 minute, got it. And then lastly, East Dundee is known for its community events and services. And Scott did touch base on this. And mental health is very big. It's very large, and it has increased substantially over the last couple of years. And I would really like to start a community health outreach program and or event because it is very open and we need to talk about it. And I was thinking of events to mention so far. We could do a 5K or a meditation Monday at the depot on Mondays, and maybe get Eastside Cafe involved with it because a lot of the small business owners really like the events in town. So community safety, increase our police department, make sure that our streets continue to stay safe, as well as really start to move forward with that momentum of the community events and start to increase it, focusing on mental health awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sauder, community safety and services.
Yes, this is a topic that's kind of interesting. When I joined last December, a year and a bit ago, it's not required, but I was encouraged to go on a police ride along for the day, and it was very enlightening to ride with Officer Ritter and get a tour of the town and then see some of the struggles that they have, and hearing about things like trying to do photo ops with kids and really gain the trust of the community. But yeah, it was there were parts of town that I didn't know exist, even though it's a small town. I thought I'd seen it all, but like it was very interesting, especially the truck parking area, like driving through there to see there's actually a very cool lake with the little lake house at the bottom of that court. But yeah, seeing how many trucks were out there, and then there were some concerns that were brought up of just the not having lighting in gates and possibly truckers in their trucks. There's about 3,000 trucks or more. So a lot of those things have improved since then, but just being in contact with our police force really helps identify those. So continuing to be in touch with our police officers and making sure they have what they need. They mentioned riot shields were needed that I didn't realize they needed in case there's certain situations, so we got them those. There's also downtown at the depot, we're working with the depot to open up an RFP for if people like Kate or other people would like to rent out the park on Saturday mornings, opening up to new kinds of events. So trying to keep that a revolving door of new ideas that come in for community services. And then also hoping to push for an open data platform that could be added for the village, including police and other things, so that the residents have better access to data.
Okay, thank you. The fourth and final topic will be infrastructure and maintenance. Mr. Sauder, we'll let you go first this time.
Thank you. And just like the police ride-along, I also went on a ride-along with Phil to see all of the public works, the water supply, the water treatment, the wells, even climbed up a water tower to look inside, but just really understood the whole system all the way to treating the water. And that it was very important. It does seem like there are water issues in the flats and in Lions Park, like throughout the village. There are a lot of things that need to be continually fixed. The water main being replaced on Water Street to keep the water recirculating instead of being stagnant at the end of the line is going in this spring, summer. So that should improve like the furthest reach of the water lines. There's also lead lines from the water mains to the homes that are the residents' responsibility. That have been working with Phil to try to identify ARPA funds for grants or IEPA loans that are sometimes forgivable, but there's an infrastructure or an inventory of lead homes or lead-lined homes that we have that we're trying to soon present options for how to best help residents to fix those, and found that did some research to figure out how to identify on my home and found that we do have lead lines, so added that to my Facebook page to help residents identify how to see if you have that, to help contact us to build that list. So also there's great things that Phil and Public Works is testing out with putting certain chemicals into the water to adhere to the lead pipes and seal them so that water passes through and doesn't leach the lead into the home. So some of those improvements have just happened that you may notice an improvement if you do have lead pipes. So continuing to keep a really close eye on the water quality, because that is definitely something that helps everyone and is not controversial at all.
Thank you. And the last word on infrastructure and maintenance goes to Ms. McKee.
Thank you. I think it's important to understand that the infrastructure and maintenance leads to increased productivity, and that's not just in residentials, but that's also in our businesses as well. And by keeping up with this maintenance, people are going to be more willing to invest in their homes, stay longer, and people are going to be willing to buy, especially if they know that there's not water quality issues. Now, we know that the water is safe. We do know that, so that is a good thing. But there are traces of lead. We live in a home that was built in the late 1800s. We are at the top of the hill. So we have really seen some of the water quality issues within our home. The state does offer grant funding, not loans, for water infrastructure updates to fix the lead levels that are caused by outdated water systems. So currently there have been fixes, but they are just temporary band-aids. The system itself does have to be updated. There is no question about that. So that is something that I would heavily look into and figure out ways that we can propose to get that done. It's not just for the lead, but also to mention the galvanized service lines as well, because the galvanized service lines in the older homes, they do have trace levels of lead, which is causing increased lead level water issues in the home. But also to mention for infrastructure and maintenance is the flood control for the residents, especially those located down by the flats. That is a heavy issue, as well as infrastructure, the riverfront. It is absolutely beautiful. It is one of the focal points of the town. It should be one of the focal points points in town. So I think that in terms of infrastructure and maintenance, we should look into how we can facelift that focal point, to Kathleen's point, to mirror kind of West Dundee, as well as we can open some landscapes, some walkways, enhance that park area over there. It's a lot of the reason why people come here and walk in the area. So I think it would be a good idea to not only address these water issues, but also kind of beautify our riverfront as well.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you for participating, as well as our other candidates, to give the voters a chance to hear your views. And for more information on all of the candidates, please check the voter guide on the League of Women Voters website, lwvelginarea.org. Voting early in person at permanent polling places begins on March 20th, and voting on election day at your regular assigned polling place will be on April 4th. If you plan to vote early, please note that different sites are open different hours and there may be changes from previous years. You can check out our information. We have a list of the early voting sites and what their hours are. You can also, of course, go to the Kane County Elections website for current information. We hope that this candidate forum presented as a public service by the League of Women Voters has been helpful to you. We will also be hosting a Meet the Candidates night for School District D300 on March 16th at 7 o'clock at the Raycow Adult Activity Center in Carpentersville. Our recorder has hopefully gotten both of these down, and that should be also available on our website under voter guide for the 2023 consolidated election. It will take us probably a couple of days to get that posted. That concludes tonight's Meet the Candidates night. I want to thank the candidates, the East Dundee Police Department for letting us use this room, and the League members who have worked to provide this forum. I also want to thank the voters who take the time to watch these forums and learn about the candidates in order to make an informed choice. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Thank you all for coming, and good night.